maybe during those 2 back-to-back win streaks in the middle of the season, maybe we just peaked too early. You guys let me know. But I'm really not seeing a lot of plays ran for Caitlin Clark. I'm not seeing many hard screens ran for Caitlin Clark. I'm really not seeing anything to get her open outside of iso ball.
What if the biggest problem with the Caitlin Clark story now isn't what we're seeing on the court, but what people think they're seeing? Because one viral clip can make it look like Caitlin Clark is standing alone, calling for the basketball while her own teammates barely move. Another clip makes Kelsey Mitchell look irritated. Another makes Stephanie White look like she's arguing with her star player.
Losses because of stupid coaching and free throws. I mean, there was one point Caitlin Clark was actually playing good and they benched her. Made no sense. And then Boston, I'm telling you, somebody got to curse her out, bro. The way she's playing basketball is pissing me off. I hate the way she's shooting the ball lately, and she's just making me mad. Her late
Player. Put all of those moments together, add a few angry reactions from fans, and suddenly the internet has a full-blown theory. Caitlin Clark is being frozen out by her own team. And honestly, it's easy to understand why that story took off. The Fever have had possessions where the offense looks stagnant. There have been moments when Clark appears to be searching for an outlet, while teammates aren't creating much movement. There have been stretches where the offense looks far less organized than you'd expect.
Got Stephanie White doing the yapping that she does. Caitlin Clark doesn't want to hear it. Physically cringing. Look at this. Physically cringing, looking physically ill. Looking physically ill. Physically ill by whatever Stephanie White's saying. Like, damn, I'm tired of hearing this. But hey. Trying to run away. Stephanie White says, no, get over here. Get over here, CC. Let me talk to you. Don't you walk away from me. Like, yeah, I'm
from a team with this much talent. But here's where the story gets interesting. The latest evidence doesn't fit the simple version. Because just before this conversation exploded, Caitlin Clark scored 21 points and handed out 7 assists against the New York Liberty. Kelsey Mitchell scored 25. Aliyah Boston scored 22 and added 6 assists. Indiana still lost 109-102. But this wasn't a game where Clark disappeared or the Fever completely ignored their stars. Then, one night later, the entire picture changed. Against Chicago, Clark erupted for 37 points and 10 assists, knocking down a career-high 8 threes. Mitchell dropped 30 more. Indiana hit a franchise record, 18 threes, and won 113-90. So if Caitlin Clark is supposedly being denied the ball by teammates who don't want her involved, how exactly do you explain that? That's the part the viral clips don't show. And that is where this Fever story gets a lot more complicated. The first thing you have to understand is why those clips are so powerful. Basketball is one of the easiest sports to turn into a conspiracy theory because everything happens in seconds. A player cuts or doesn't cut. A guard makes a pass or doesn't make a pass. Someone relocates to the corner. Someone stands still for 2 seconds. A defender switches. A screen arrives late. Freeze that moment. Add dramatic commentary. And suddenly a routine possession can look like evidence of something much bigger. That's basically what happened with the Clark clips. The argument goes something like this. Clark brings the ball up, gives it away, and then doesn't get it back. Meanwhile, teammates appear to stand around. So the conclusion becomes that they don't want to give her the ball. But there are several steps missing between what the camera shows and what that conclusion claims. A stagnant possession is real. A bad offensive possession is real. A teammate missing a cut is real. A player making the wrong read is real. But none of those things automatically prove that a teammate deliberately refused to involve CA. But there's another layer to this story that makes the entire situation even more interesting. Because if you only watch the viral clips, you might think the Fever have one massive problem. Caitlin Clark isn't getting the basketball enough. But watch the games closely, and a different problem starts to appear. Sometimes, the issue isn't that Clark isn't involved. It's that Indiana doesn't always know what to do once the defense takes away the first option. And against elite teams, that difference is everything. Clark can bring the ball up, run a pick and roll, draw 2 defenders, and create an advantage.
Aliyah finds Kelsey. Kelsey's about to make a move. She gets off the ball. Now look at Kelsey Mitchell start slow walking. Like, just look at this. She's not moving. She's not sprinting. Aliyah's right there at the top of the key. Like, just look at them. They're just walking straight still. Like, oh, all right, go ahead, Kaylin. Leaving Kaylin on an island. Kaylin gets off the ball. Now her and Kelsey on top of each other. Monique Billings and Aliyah on top of each other. Yo, I ain't gonna lie. This might be the dumb, this coaching will literally drive anybody. Like, what is this? Why is Monique Billings and Aliyah together? Why is Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark together? Like, do we know what spacing means? like, why is it like this is every play on every
in seconds? That's the easy part. The difficult part comes next. Someone has to recognize where that advantage is going to appear. A teammate has to cut. Another player has to relocate. The screener has to make the right read. The corner has to stay ready. And the moment the defense rotates, somebody has to punish it. When all of that happens at once, the Fever suddenly look dangerous. But when even one piece is late, the entire...
Like, look at this. Look, pass the ball, pass the ball, pass the ball. Look, wide, Caitlin wide open, plank, pathetic. Well, let's watch it again one more time. Look, Caitlin's wide open. Nobody's on her. Look, this is, no, this...
possession can collapse. That's why some of these possessions look so bizarre. Clark isn't necessarily being ignored. Sometimes, she's creating an opening that nobody reacts to quickly enough. And when that happens against a defense like New York's, the window closes almost instantly. That's where the frustration comes from.
Missing open shots because she knows she has to hurry up and get them up. She knows I'm coming out of the game between the 4 minute, the 2.5 minute mark. I'm coming out. So I got to be aggressive early. She knows I cannot pass up any shot. I have to probe and look for my shot early in possessions, because once I pass it to Aliyah or Kelsey or anybody, I'm never getting it back. This is a shitty situation, man. Pardon my language. I didn't want Caitlin Clark the hell off this team. I want Caitlin Clark the hell away from this front office. I want her the hell away from this goofball clown.
Because Clark's greatest weapon isn't simply shooting from deep. It's what her shooting forces defenses to do. The moment she crosses half court, defenders have to think about her range. If they press too high, she can attack. If they go underneath a screen, she can pull up. If they send another defender, somebody else becomes open. And that's supposed to be the foundation of Indiana's offense. The Fever don't need every possession to end with Clark taking the shot. They need every possession to make the defense worry about what happens if Clark gets the ball in the right spot. That's a completely different philosophy. And when Indiana gets that part right, you can see the difference immediately. The ball moves faster. The defense starts scrambling. Boston gets easier opportunities. Mitchell gets cleaner looks. Clark gets room to operate. Suddenly, the same players who looked disconnected a few minutes earlier look like a completely different team. That's why the argument over Caitlin's touches can be misleading. The goal isn't simply to give Clark the ball more. It's to give her the ball in situations where she can actually hurt the defense. There's a huge difference. If Clark catches the ball 35 feet from the basket with a defender already waiting for her, that's technically a touch, but it's not necessarily a good possession. If she catches it after a screen forces a switch, with the defense already rotating and Boston sealing her defender inside, that's a completely different situation. And that's where coaching becomes important. Because somebody has T. The biggest problem facing the Indiana Fever might not be Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, or even Stephanie White. It might be what happens when the pressure gets turned up and every weakness suddenly becomes impossible to hide. Because at this point, Indiana isn't just trying to win basketball games. They're trying to survive the expectations that came with becoming one of the most watched teams in the WNBA. And that changes everything. A normal bad possession stays a bad possession. For the Fever, it can become a viral clip before the game is even over. A missed pass becomes a debate. A frustrated reaction becomes a headline. A coaching decision becomes a referendum on Stephanie White. And
because you want to throw a little hissy fit again. Kaden gets the ball and look at Kelsey Mitchell with her hands up, just standing right there. No effort to sprint. Aliyah Boston, no effort to sprint. No flashing to the nail, nothing. Like, look at this. This is embarrassing, Chad. Leaving Caitlin on an island. Like, man, I'm done with this team, Chad. I'm not even going to sit up here and lie to y'all. Then I posted this right here that Kelsey Mitchell leads all scorers with 9 points in the first quarter, and the Fever are losing by 7. Once again, back to the good old days where Kelsey scores, but the Fever loses the game. Kelsey can score as much as she wants. It won't translate to any wins because Caitlin is not facilitating. She's not creating advantages. So Kelsey can score all the points she wants. Eventually,
A loss becomes another reason for fans to ask whether this team is actually built the right way. But here's where the story gets interesting. The Fever have already shown they can score at an elite level. They've already shown Clark and Mitchell can explode offensively together. They've already shown they can win without everything going perfectly. So the real question isn't whether Indiana has enough talent. It's whether that talent can stay connected when the game gets ugly. Because that's where good teams separate themselves. When the shots aren't falling, what happens? When Clark gets trapped, who moves?
you can't score 100 points by yourself, Kelsey. And it's going to take that, letting Caitlin Clark run the game. In fact, I want the Fever to have more turnovers because it means Caitlin Clark is running the game. You know what that means? That means they'll have more assists. They'll have more fluidity. They'll have more rhythm. Players will have more motivation to be in their spots. Lexi Ho has spoken about it, how she knows where to be and how she gets rewarded for it because in the past, she wouldn't be hit before. But, you know, it is what it is. I want you guys to watch this little clip real quick. Aliyah finds Kelsey. Kelsey's about to make a move. She gets off the ball. Now look how Kelsey Mitchell starts slow walking. Y'all seen Kelsey Mitchell start slow walking right here. Once again, for those who missed it, Kelsey was trying to get in her bag, start making her move, and she realized that Caitlin was coming to get the ball. Now Kelsey Mitchell just drops the ball with an attitude like, all right, go ahead and take it.
Small forward for the...
When Mitchell gets denied, who creates the next advantage? When Boston is doubled, who becomes the outlet? And when the opponent goes on a run, does Indiana panic or execute? Those moments won't show up in a 10-second social media clip. But those moments decide seasons. And that's exactly why the next phase of this Fever story could be completely different from everything we've seen so far. The noise isn't going away. If anything, it's getting louder. But eventually, the basketball has to speak for itself. Because when the postseason arrives, nobody can hide behind narratives. If the offense works, we'll see it. If it doesn't, we'll see that too. And if Caitlin Clark really is the centerpiece everyone believes she can become, this is where she gets the chance to prove it, not by forcing every shot, but by controlling the game in the way elite point guards do. Create, read, adjust, make everybody around her better. That's the version of Clark Indiana needs. And if Mitchell keeps providing that secondary scoring punch while Boston gives them a reliable interior threat, suddenly the Fever have something much more dangerous than a viral storyline. They have a formula. The question is whether they can repeat it when everything is on the line. Because the next time Indiana loses, the internet will have 1,000 explanations. Some will blame Clark. Some will blame Mitchell. Some will blame White. Some will blame the defense.